And obviously, the number one thing you got to do to right the ship is the guy under center. He's 1 year removed from MVP type run. Like, there were times last year where it was easy to forget that. But the thing you hear is how excited Jalen is, how well they're working together, and how good of a teacher Kellen Moore is. He's 36. So he's on these players' level. He's a former player. People forget that, right? Boise, and a little time in the league. So he's been there, done that. Jalen said 95% of the offense is new, but he has been praised by so many players for simplifying what could be a really complicating onboarding kind of process. He's a great teacher, adaptable to player skill sets. These are the quotes that come out of Philly. As you've heard, we've teamed up with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all our picks, and we'll have special offers for you listeners each week. If y'all haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code GREENLIGHT, and you will get up to $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. 1, download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code GREENLIGHT. 2, deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. 3, you will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use bonus code GREENLIGHT when you sign up. San Francisco, California. Hello. What, you didn't want me to do it?
No, I did. Yeah, no. Ah.
You look so disappointed.
No. This will be good. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me why.
Well, I'm just trying to get us to the news of the day so we can get to the previews. Trent Williams' holdout is over. He pulled up to the tarmac with a giant plane and a big-ass dog last night, and now he's got a bag of money. That's the way it should be. Trent Williams, he's the straw that stirs the drink. We talked about this for a long time during our preview earlier this week of the 49ers. It's just been like kind of shaky vibes with Ayuk holdout, with Pearsall getting shot. Obviously, that's beyond football. I don't know why I have to say that every time. But I do say
well, you went beyond this time. Last time you went bigger.
It's bigger, beyond. It's bigger.
Definitely different than football.
It's different than football. Now you've got Trent Williams back.
Yeah.
And that was a worry, because as I mentioned, Big Trent Williams doesn't need another game check. Like, he wants his money, but he's probably more willing to sit out games than Ayuk. So this is a really good kind of stick in the landing on the offseason for the 49ers. And as good as they are, I don't think it's one of those things where it's like, oh, we had to get our shit together at the very last second. We're not together as a team. They have a program in place. The Pearsall thing, I guess he's back in the weight room already, which is wild. That's like Brian Robinson played like a week after he got shot, right?
There's like 4
or a month.
Yeah.
Tomato,
but
tomato.
still,
It's
like
all
same
the same
season, ridiculous.
Same. I mean, it's like, I don't know if I should be impressed or disturbed.
Right.
Both.
I find it a little disturbing that the pressure of like wanting to play in the NFL is so great within the team that you can't take a couple days off for that.
Oh, no question.
Well,
isn't that wild?
Yeah.
But also, I was thinking it's like disturbing because a bunch of players are getting shot too. Can we not do the many men thing again? It's just not that like what are we doing here?
Agreed.
No, many men don't wish death on you. Like one guy did, and that was bad. And now we want to move on, right? Okay. So anyways, San Francisco, you should be pretty happy. There's a lot of good news, relatively speaking, that stemmed out of like really scary stuff for you guys on and off the football field.
Who's up next? Jamar Chase?
I don't know, man. I just assume that's going to get done. There's just too much at stake.
Maybe, I don't know, get it done?
Right. I know ownership is a little bit stingy there.
Yeah. The Bengals have to wait till they've sold all those TVs before they can extend them.
What was that?
They're selling like secondhand the TVs from the stadium.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
And this is the third sale they've had this year. All the concession stand TVs.
I'm all for people not having to go into Best Buy.
How often you get a new TV?
Every time I get a new house.
Every 18 months or so?
No. No. No, now you're getting an idea of why we're such close friends here. Every 18 months, my real estate agent. Okay, so I'm so excited, man. I look up this morning and I'm like, holy shit, it's not a week away. It's not, 5 days away. We got football as you're hearing this tomorrow night. It's Wednesday for you listening. It's Tuesday for us. I can't wait. I used to say that the summer was the best season. It is no longer. I have 3 children. They don't go to school in the summer, is what I noticed. Okay. So a lot of the activities that I love to do are pushed into the back burner. The whole fucking family is exhausted. You people with kids know what I'm talking about. I'm going to slide the fall into slot 1. T1, fall and spring. Okay?
Yeah,
Spring's great.
sure.
They're still in school. The flowers are budding. You can get out on the water. It's gorgeous here in Virginia. But there's nothing like that dopamine hit that's coming this weekend. I cannot wait. We're going to be in the bunker together, guys. It's going to be a fuck ton of games. I'm also hearing this year that there's going to be more 4 p.m.s than usual, which is a big deal. I don't know if people realize this, but I think they maxed the 4 p.m.s out in the past 3 games.
Typically.
A lot of times you only have 2.
Hard for us to prep when there's 8 1 o'clock games.
It's really hard to prep. So, and it's also hard to I love the 4 p.m. window. I think it's really fun.
You can win your
So
money.
I'm all about that.
Week 1, there are 8 1 p.m. games, 4 4 p.m. games.
I'll take that.
And don't forget, we have Thursday night and Friday night.
It's insane.
Yeah.
The Eagles are going to be hosting they're on a plane as we speak, headed down to Brazil. If I were Darius Slay, okay, I probably wouldn't. Now, he was a great guest on this podcast. I hope he has a big year. I really enjoyed Darius Slay, okay? Usually I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to get with a corner. Me and a corner going to get along. I thought he was awesome, okay? Having said that, going down to Brazil, we got enough heat for the Josh Jacobs thing. We had Josh Jacobs on, and Josh Jacobs like, they're telling us not to wear green because of the gangs. And I'm taking this at face value because I'm not in those fucking meetings. I'm not in an NFL meeting preparing to go to Brazil or Sao Paulo more specifically. And a bunch of Brazilians were upset, and I apologize for perpetuating that lie on this show. If that's not the case, and it's just about footy, soccer, or you don't like the color green down there, that is, hey, my bad, hand up. Even though I didn't say it, Josh Jacobs said it, not me. Now, Darius Slay on his own podcast comes out, and he's like, I don't want to go down there. It's like Grand Theft Auto down there. It's bad. And to me, if I were a player traveling to Brazil, I probably wouldn't want to put a target on my back. I don't know if the right way to go is to be like, there's a lot of crime down there, and boy, am I impressed. Whoever the gangs are that are perpetuating this crime, you're doing a great job of it. And I just want you to leave me out of it the 48 to 72 hours that I'm in Sao Paulo. But you definitely don't want to be like, what a shitty place. I don't want to play there. Then you might get mugged by a guy who's not a criminal. You might get beat up by just some guys that know Muay Thai in an alley. So hey, if I was playing in Brazil, I would get my edible. I would get on the plane, grab a good book or a couple feature films, and get in, get out.
Well, Slay said he was planning to play Call of Duty on the plane, and Quinyon Mitchell said he was planning to watch extra film.
Well, one's a rookie. All right. One's lying. No, I hope you're watching extra film, Quinyon Mitchell, and I believe it. We're going to get to the Eagles in the preview. This kid's great. And I love Slay, so I'm not saying he should just, shut up or anything like that. But I would be nervous going down there, nervous enough to just compliment the fuck out of the place, get in and get out. Okay? I'm not saying it's going to be bad, but there are forest fires down there.
To be honest with you, Chris, I didn't know that there were many forests in Sao Paulo.
Yeah,
you say Sao Paulo to me, I see buildings and people.
Sure, surrounded by forests, though. The AQ is shitty, so there's a lot you got to deal with down in Brazil. I'm hoping everybody has a safe trip. Of course they will. It's one of the safest places in the world, I was told. Nice. But you are coming from America, Darius Slay, where it's a shit show. Anyways.
Your last name is Slay.
Yeah, okay. So I'm excited. The fall is back. It might be the number 1 season. Hey, here's the big deal today. The big deal today is we got a fantasy football draft tonight.
Yeah.
And I know you don't care about our fantasy league, but it'll be fun to follow along at times. The banter, that's what you love about this show. That's what y'all say all the fucking time.
First ever green light proper league.
This is our first proper green light league. And if you know me, you know I have a Cameo account, and I like to how do you say, catfish former teammates, punk them. You know, I had Trey Flowers, former defensive end for the Patriots, reaching out to a young kid who shit his pants allegedly in a middle school football game on the field. And Trey admitted that one time he might have shit his pants on the football field when he was young. And that was really good for my imaginary son to hear. One time, and this is my favorite one of all time, LeGarrette Blunt, dear friend of mine, under my alias on Cameo, reach out to him, say, I got the oldest living iguana here, Guinness Book of World Records, Petey. He's a big Pats fan. Can you wish him a happy birthday and congratulate him on being the oldest living iguana? We got LG promptly. I mean, he's got the little lightning symbol next to his name. Under 24 hours, he put a Pats shirt on. He's out by the pool. I got Kurt Benkert, who's now famous, our guy, to congratulate a woman on her upcoming marriage and announce to her that her husband was booking a honeymoon at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. 6 days, 7 nights. He delivered it like it was real. And the last one, maybe my favorite, Dean Blandino, who I met this year at Bussin' with the Boys pool party. It was the coolest fucking guy in the world, dude. Dean Blandino is my dude, even though I negotiated him off my Beer Olympics team. That was a favor to him, actually, because I spent most of the afternoon in the backyard with Waka Flocka Flames, and my head wasn't all there. I sent Dean Blandino this fucking Cameo, and boy, the service was phenomenal. I said, Dean, I recently kicked my fiance out of the house, not violently, but I said it's time to go. But the marriage is back on, and I wanted you to tell her that the call has been overturned. I gave him a little script. He really went with it. He played Baby Come Back over the Cameo. I just want to shout those folks out and remind people that I do have a Cameo account and I like to use it for fun. Today, though, I got a very special person who you're going to act like you've never heard of. And you at home, you can act like you've never heard of this person, especially if you're watching with like your wife or your significant other. But I know you've heard of this person.
I hadn't.
Okay.
Respectfully. Would knock it out of the park. Respectfully.
Her name is Brandy Love. Okay. And somebody was like, who's Brandy Love? Somebody who was lying was like, who's Brandy Love? And Matt said something. I said, man, she's like, I don't know if you could say she's past her prime. She's an older adult entertainer. Her prime has just been 30 years long. You know, she's like, you put it this way. She's like LeBron.
Yeah.
She's like LeBron. So I said, hey, we have a podcast, Greenlight Podcast. Here are the names. So we end up with 12 names, right? There's 12 guys in the league or 10?
Yes,
12, which is getting a little crammed. You know what I mean? All right. So Brandy's going to read off.
I'm
these
stuck.
names. I know. Do you guys want to watch it in real time?
Yeah.
And then
I'd love to.
And then we'll.
It's not the first thing I've seen her do with 12 guys.
You like that one, huh?
Hey, that's one of your best jokes right there. Oh, that's good. Okay, you guys ready?
Yeah.
Go ahead and remember this order.
Hey guys, Brandy Love here. This is getting serious. I am so honored to get to do this. I am in the presence of all these legends. So first of all, let me thank Chris Gilger for letting me hold the draft
That's
for your
my fake name.
And the fact that you guys are going to do it, I don't know if you're going to actually use this video or watch it when you're on the Greenlight Podcast.
We are going to watch it. We're watching it.
Freaking cool.
Yeah.
So thank you.
I like her.
With
You're welcome,
all of
Brandy.
these names, there's only one way I can think to do this. It would be even remotely fair. And that's to put your names in my favorite fancy highball glass.
Oh, wow.
And pull them randomly. So what do you say we get started?
Let's start.
I don't want to waste your time. You have much more important things or other important things.
Just a couple
to discuss
previews to
today,
get to,
but
Brandy.
Let's get this one handled. Number 12.
Number 12.
We have Kingston.
No,
Number 11.
that's where you want to be.
Aiden.
Okay, Aiden.
Number 10, Chris Long.
Nice.
There we go.
Number 9,
That's not good.
Matt Conrath.
It is. I'll trade. This sucks. I want to
Number
be at the
8.
turn.
So fun. Number 8, we have Macon.
Okay. All right.
Number 7,
Can you rewind so she says my name again?
Reed Dickerson. Number
She
6.
said your name. Brandy Love said your name.
Number 6, we have Beau Allen.
Oh, he's gonna be excited.
Number 5, that's a fun name. We have Ralph.
Ralph.
Ran out of.
Just one word,
Yeah.
just one name. Number 4, we have Kevin Badkey.
Wow.
Number
Nice.
3,
He's gonna freak out if he knows who this
Brian
is.
Nelson.
Okay.
Number 2, Tom Paquette. Number
You are
1,
prepared.
Nate Collins.
Wow.
You guys have an exceptional season. I would love to hear back from you to tell me who won and maybe who the loser is, and we can have a fun little roast. Have a great show. Thanks for letting me participate, and best of luck.
Brandy Love. Hey,
I
Brandy
you,
Love,
Brandy.
everybody.
Yeah, that was phenomenal. It's great. Matt, I love your spot there at the turn.
I like having the turn because I can make 2 picks in a row. It makes the
You
whole
got
draft
it.
much more quick.
Snake draft.
Snake draft.
Yeah, it's her
Yeah.
favorite kind. Are you guys ready to move on from porn to our previews?
I guess.
And I just want to say, Brandy, before sending out this cameo, I had no idea who you were.
Born Tracy Lynn Livermore in Dearborn, Michigan.
She might be a Lions fan.
Probably is.
I'm going to draft a Lion for her.
How old do you think she is?
37.
51.
Wow. Older than me?
That is older than you. Yeah.
Okay. That's no.
She's been married to a guy named Chris since 94.
Is that wild?
Yeah.
So is my wife.
Mhm.
Since more recently. All right. We have some previews to get to. The hard right turn into the previews. We have the NFC East. We have the NFC North. And here's what I want to do. I want to let Macon pick where we start.
NFC North.
Now, the thought process behind this for you Eagles fans was to keep you engaged.
Right.
Make you sit here a little bit and listen to, or you just scrub forward, which you're probably going to do anyways. But we will start with the NFC North. So nobody can call me a fucking homer, right? Because that's what I get called a lot on this fucking podcast. And this year, if you watch my live streams or socials coming out Sunday, it's going to look worse than ever because of the bet that I described earlier. Okay? Let's talk about the NFC North. Who we start with in the NFC North?
The Detroit Lions. The odds-on favorite to win the division at plus 130.
So let me do something. Because I have so many notes. I'm sure you'll be excited to hear that. People want to hear about these teams, mate. Start with the Lions. I'm jazzed about this team.
12-5 last year.
I'm excited about this team. When you think about the fact that they've continued to retain this offensive coordinator, it is a huge deal. All right, Ben Johnson, you can call him quirky, you can call him whatever, but I think he's being careful. He goes to see the Commanders. He's flirted with the Panthers. No thanks, David Tepper. I'm staying right here in Detroit with Sheila and Dan and Brad. That's where you want to be. They have one of the best organizations running right now. And you think about, the Patriots. They have a lot to prove when it comes to like organizational continuity. I mean, you lose Bill. Are they going to be the same quality organization? Pittsburgh's at kind of a crossroads, right? You think about a lot of the traditional powers in the NFL. San Francisco, traditional power. They've done a good job of keeping that thing going. Philly has been able to hit the curveball at times. Detroit has built this thing really well. And I think this year all they did was get better. Now there's some concerns. I'll take you through those. They overcame a lot last year. Okay. Like this is a real thing. We talk about a team's DNA. Where have they been? They overcame a ton at the end of that year, whether it was the Dallas game, the skipper call, whether it was losing in that heartbreaking fashion. But I think more than anything, they look at that year and they say, hey, we opened the year. We bookended the year with 2 performances we can build on, right? We go out in that kickoff game And we beat Kansas City fair and square. And at that point, and in the months that followed, people were like, well, it didn't mean so much. Kansas City's not that good. And they end up being the Super Bowl champions. And the final game of their season, I am convinced, and I know Dan Campbell is as well, and his players, hopefully, that they can play with anybody in the NFC. You know, if they execute in those situations, if the decisions that Dan made, which were controversial, actually go right, if the players on the field execute in those situations, there are arguments to be made about whether or not you leave it to the players to execute in those situations, but that's not who Dan is. Dan's going to go. He's not going to blink. And his players this offseason, I talked to some of them man to man about this. Do you harbor any resentment for that? They do not. Had they said yes, probably wouldn't have shared it. Okay. But talking to a couple of those guys, they're 100% behind him. And I look at Detroit and I say, they're going to come into this season with confidence. Like last year, they knew they were going to be a good team. I think this year they know they can win it. And that's the standard. And that's the difference. Okay. Dan Campbell has an Applebee's commercial.
Yeah.
Hope that doesn't go to his head. Don't think it will. Humble King. Welcome to the Applebee's family. Or was that Chili's that Kyle and I did an ad for?
It was Applebee's, I think.
Welcome to the family, Dan. Roll some tape of that fucking commercial on the YouTube for people before we get into this team. Okay. Now that we're out of Applebee's, I want to take you through the skill positions because I think there's one thing we're not thinking about. And I wasn't thinking about it when I put this together today, kind of threw it together. I mean, obviously, when you look at their wide receiver room, Amon-Ra St. Brown is the dude, right? Jamison Williams is a guy that they're hoping comes along. They have to feel good about him coming along because they really didn't address the third receiver, right? And that was something that we've talked about this offseason, them possibly being buyers at the trade deadline. They have the cap space to do it. You know, I don't know who it would be. Noel, I don't know if you have any names that you think would be good fits in this offense. I mean, nobody has a Devontae Adams.
Right. Yeah. I mean, thinking of teams who could be sellers, the Raiders come to mind. Devontae or Jacoby Myers would make a lot of sense there too.
Yeah.
A couple guys in contract years: Amari Cooper, Chris Godwin, Brandon Cooks.
Godwin
would be great, but I think the Bucs have business to attend to, dude. I also think the Cowboys might look up and say, "Hey, well, we'll get there in a second." I think they could be buyers. Khalif Raymond, you know, again, third receiver. We really need to address this. Tim Patrick figure in. Sam Laporta's a weapon. You know, we can't discount having maybe the best tight end in the game. I think there's going to be a point where we talk about him like the best tight end in the game. And I'm not disrespecting George Kittle when I say that. George Kittle is incredible. But I think Sam's on that Kittle trajectory where Kittle was do you remember when Kittle went off on the Saints down at the Superdome? And it was just like he took the game over. Sam's going to have an opportunity to do things like that. And they can both block, the two guys we're talking about. Sam Laporta, great player. But again, look for them at the trade deadline to do something. You know, do something, brother. That's what my 5-year-old says to my 8-year-old when they're playing Uno and they're trying to get me or the wife out of the game. Do something, brother. Hey, Brad Holmes, do something, brother. Because at the trade deadline, I think what you're going to know about your team is you can compete with anybody, and you probably could use another weapon.
They also added, as we talked about, Allen Robinson on the practice squad. So a couple spots, Tim Patrick, Allen Robinson, and everyone's favorite Donovan Peoples-Jones.
Did Allen Robinson, was he in New York at all? No, was he in Detroit the entire camp? Because I think he was in New York.
No, he just got picked up.
Yeah, he got beat by the Wheaton kid. The Wheaton kid was competing with him and Hodgins, former hero of the wild card game against the Minnesota Vikings, if you remember that run. But I think some of these depth pieces that might not, Donovan Peoples-Jones, like they threw a lot at it without really throwing something at it. And I think actually that's smart because then you see what you got and you know that when you need a stud down the stretch, if you do need one, you can go get one. Okay. So I think the concern, if there's any concern, is this position right here. And I don't mean the position as a whole. I just mean like a relative concern. If you're trying to go where you want to go and you want to win the playoffs, you got to be able to stress people 3 deep. And, it's optional. You could certainly have 2 good wide receivers. You could live in 12 personnel sets. I mean, like the third guy could just be a guy. He could be a good blocker. He could be a, gadget guy. But I think if you want to really stress people, you need to have 2, if not 3 legit guys outside in today's NFL. So I look at this and I say, if that's the piece that's going to keep him out of the Super Bowl, you go make that move.
Watch this, though. I'm motioning Jahmyr Gibbs out of the backfield.
Sure. They don't think of him like a running back. It's like we were talking about yesterday with Bijan Robinson. Okay. Not a dissimilar situation.
Yep.
Okay. Like, actually, when you look at it, Kyle Pitts is not Laporta, but there's a thought that he could be a receiving threat akin to Sam Laporta. Drake London, elite receiver. Amon-Ra St. Brown, although packaged differently, elite receiver. And then you've got some guys in between and a dynamic running back, right? Mm-hmm. So you could use Gibbs, and they will, very creatively, but this is also a team that loves to run trap on fucking 3rd and 5. And that's the spirit I don't want to lose with this team. Obviously, they've got Montgomery to deal with that kind of stuff. Offensive line, heartbeat of this team. It reminds me of the Eagles group a couple years ago. They're that complete. They're that good. They're that well-coached. Hank Fraley, my former teammate, coaching that group, reminds me of that Eagles group where you've got Ragnow, who's the first guy off of anybody's, he's on the tip of everybody's tongue up in Green Bay. Okay? No other way to say it. Okay, you ask Kenny Clark about him. Then you go to Minnesota in camp and you ask Harrison Phillips about him. Or, you ask them actually open-ended questions about who's the dog you got to worry about in division, out of division, who's the guy you respect. Frank Ragnow is the first guy that comes out of their mouth. So I look at Ragnow, Sewell, elite players, Glasgow, Zeitler, who's durable, who's played like most of the season wherever he's played, as opposed to last year. They missed Jonah Jackson in some key spots. I actually think this offensive line got better. Okay. The only thing I worry about is Decker's health. Had a surgery on his ankle and foot this year. It was kind of complicated. This is a good group. They move together. They move on a string. They play together. You can have 5 guys who are good players, but when you got 5 guys that are good players, are well coached, they do everything the same. Their looks marry, play action marries with the run game, the whole thing. They are a well coached group. So love the offense. They're just a receiver away from being absolutely terrifying. One of the questions we had last year was like Jared Goff outside. That's always been a question, right? He doesn't play as well out in the elements, in the cold. Some people are going to take this as a slight.
Doesn't have to.
It doesn't have to. The way it fell last year, like San Francisco wasn't the frozen tundra. You had to go on the road there, but you played LA and you played Tampa at home. Take care of your business in division during the season. You're going to win your division. You're going to host a playoff game. So I look at their schedule this year. Maybe Macon, you could be the Doppler weather guy for me and tell me how many cold weather games they play outside late in the season.
1.
Right?
That's it.
Okay.
They're at home in a dome, and then they're at Arizona Dome, Dallas Dome, Minnesota Dome, Green Bay outside first week of November, Houston Dome, Indy Dome. At Chicago is the one I was referring to, December 22nd.
It's fucking lining up beautifully.
And then at San Francisco on December the 30th, which will probably be
that's going to be a big game.
52 degrees.
Yeah, you think?
Yeah.
Balmy?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get to the defense because this is the dumpster fire last year, and it really was the secondary, right? The secondary, they came in, they poured some water on it. They bring in Rakestraw, they bring in Terry and Arnold, they're able to bring in Carlton Davis. Everybody's talking about the draft picks, and you should, but Carlton Davis has been a great player in this league, and he can cover, man. He's physical. He's bigger. So you get this guy from Tampa. A lot of people are like, oh, it's not a big deal. Part of it's because, you kind of get overshadowed on the defense with a lot of stars and blue chip guys, and he's in a smaller market. But these Detroit fans are going to like what you get in him. He's the X factor. How it shakes out with the rest of the guys, Kirby Joseph, Brian Branch are a good group of safeties. Melon Fonwu is more of a box guy, right? Like he'll get downhill. He's had some injuries. So I worry about safety depth a little bit without knowing as much about the depth pieces. But I love Brian Branch being able to be a safety, be in one spot a little bit more. Last year with CJ Gardner-Johnson, he was forced to do some nickel. He was forced to move around a little bit. He is versatile. You want to move him around, but I also like him get him comfortable. You know what I mean? And so I look at these corners and I say, something's going to shake out well for them. I really do believe that it's going to be an improvement over last year where Jaron Hall and fucking Josh Dobbs are torching you late in the season. You know, the only reason that's happening is because they were really rough down the stretch and they played more man. Okay, like that's what this guy wants to do, right? That's what Aaron Glenn wants to do. He wants to man up. He wants to be aggressive. And when they made that turn, like week 10, those guys just weren't ready to make the turn. But I think this year they got guys that are more akin to the ones that he would want to play his scheme. The skill sets match a little bit more. And so I just look at this front. Okay. Aiden Hutchinson has been fantastic. He's a pressure machine. Okay. I think he had 100 pressures last year. That's incredible. And the fact that he can rush inside and outside, you might not say he's a top 5 rusher, but boy, is he fucking good. And boy, will he be even better if you find a guy opposite him to just get some pressure. They cycled in a lot of guys last year. You know, James Houston, they liked him, but he got hurt. You know, Charles Harris, other guys like that. Comiskey's hurt this year. They'll miss him. But somebody other than Hutchinson's got to get some pressure. And Marcus Davenport's the guy that enters the building, and he's a guy who's had near 10 sacks in the league. So those guys don't grow on trees, and he's a guy that plays with power and he's physical. So like he's a Dan Campbell fit. You know, Comiskey was big and physical. You don't want to lose something in the run game. You don't want to bring in just some light in the ass guy. I thought one of the things they did best last year was bring those, you know, guys like Aleem McNeil along. Aleem McNeil was great. He's going to be able to play 3-tech now and just go. Where DJ Reader comes in, 30-year-old veteran, stud from Cincy, got hurt late last year. Looks like he's going to be ready early in the season here. I can't tell you exactly when. I haven't read that. But you're talking about a guy who did a quad in like November. That's like a 9-month injury. So I think it might have even been December. If he can get back and he's himself, this defense is going to be really good. But a lot has to do with the health of these guys, man. I like the linebacker room. Anzalone, love Jack Campbell. Okay. The other guy they have is Barnes, the guy who whiffed in the end zone against Dallas, I think it was last year. It was like a really low point for him. I hate to bring up the one low point. The guy's made some plays. But there are 2 guys in the middle are Anzalone and Jack Campbell. Now, honestly, my biggest worry with this unit is health. Injuries are a concern. Davenport has had his share of injuries, broken thumb, broken toe, Liz Frank, concussion, shoulder issue, ankle issue, high ankle. That's like all the stuff he's missed time for in his career. And Reader's obviously 30 coming off his injury. Carlton Davis, quiet as kept, has never played in more than 13 games in a season, 14 games in a season. So a lot of your big, like, hey, to the rescue guys are also guys with injury history. So these guys got to stay healthy. A guy that's been talked about is Levi on. Can you do that one for me, Nolan?
Onwuzurike.
There we go. Levi Onwuzurike had a lumbar fusion in 22, played a lot last year. Campbell's raved about him. So maybe some of that interior depth that you want comes from a guy like that. I just think if this group stays healthy and the young guys come along, they'll be better. Here was the thing I was talking about with Aaron Glenn. Per True Media, the Lions' man coverage rate rose from 17th in the NFL first half of the season, 22%, to 9th in the second half at 30%. That's a big jump. From weeks 1 to 9, the Lions' blitz rate of 25% ranked 20th in the league. From weeks 10 to 18, it ranked 5th at 39.2%. Okay, and while results showed a pass defense that faltered without the proper horses to run the system, players and coaches believe it set the defense up for success in 2024. Now, that's interesting. Growing pains that you got to go through, right? It might have sucked to have been on an island last year with some of the guys you had out there, but this is going to help them. Had they just played soft zone, had they sat back, had they not brought pressure, you're starting to do that in camp, and Lord knows we don't have a lot of time in today's NFL to acclimate. So I'm excited about the defense getting better. The offense is what it is. They retain Ben Johnson. There is one little thing. They got a kicker who's never kicked a field goal or an extra point in college. He was a soccer player, started off kicking soccer balls, then ended up at like Texas State, Arkansas. He did hit a 64-yarder for the Michigan Panthers at Ford Field. So,
and I think he bombed a 65 or 66 yarder.
Guy's got a leg, man. And Dave Phipps, his coach, one of the best special teams coaches in the NFL for my money. He was in Philly with me. We didn't have a huge, like, functional relationship because I was trying to avoid being on teams at 33. But Phipps the man.
Jake Bates, 6 of 7 in the preseason, 3 of 4 extra points.
Yeah. We need that to be 4 of 4.
Should be fine.
Especially in August.
Brad Holmes has a lot of draft credibility now.
Yeah.
We didn't know about Jahmyr Gibbs until he became Jahmyr Gibbs.
Right.
Same with Sam Laporta. And he got Arnold and Rakestraw at 24 and 61. I think it's going to be great.
There's some guys you just trust, man.
Makai Wingo, LSU in the 6th round.
You just trust Brad Holmes.
Yes.
Like you just said, he's done a great job. And so when there's teams that have uncertainties and there's voids to fill, especially if you grab 2 DBs, one of them's going to work out.
Now here's my question.
Yeah.
Courtesy of BetMGM.
Yeah.
If they're 12-5 last year, 13-4 with the Dallas game, why is the win total 10.5? Jared's playing inside all season long.
Well, they probably thought that Detroit played above themselves last year. They probably, like they only gave out the highest win total this year is 11.5. The San Francisco 49ers. So to me, that just means that's the ceiling, and we're not going to put anybody above them. We're also not going to get any action on Detroit at 13 wins or 12 wins.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everybody's just going to hit the under.
And the over's juiced minus 135.
Yeah, over's juiced a little bit. I think they win 12 games. I mean, like, the ceiling on this team is 14, That's the kind of team they have this year. I really do believe that. And come Friday, I will be talking about the Lions as a team that could win the whole thing. Or am I going to pick them to win the whole thing? This team can absolutely win the whole thing. I think people, we've talked about Dan Campbell till we're blue in the face, but you cannot deny the belief that he instills in these guys. 32 teams, bunch of professionals, bunch of different schemes, bunch of different things that differentiate chances to win the whole thing. But the tie goes to the team that's got it here. You know what I mean? I hate to get,
pointing to his heart.
I'm pointing to my heart, where I think my heart is roughly.
I think it's a little lower.
It's right here.
Okay.
But the mic was in the way. So they got it right there, man. They do. They got it between the ears. They've got a dynamic coordinator on offense, and they've improved on defense. It was probably another cameo from Brandy.
I'm curious where you want to go second, whether it's the Green Bay Packers or the Chicago Bears.
I have a cameo here from Tanya Harding a couple years ago.
Yeah, you never clicked on. Just no,
it was my buddy just pranked me and had Tanya Harding tell me to have a great day.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
so I sent him Nancy Kerrigan.
Yeah. We had Nancy do something for the show.
I had Nancy Kerrigan do something. So, anyways, who's next?
You tell me, Green Bay or Chicago?
I think Green Bay's earned it.
Okay.
I really do. Chicago's like the Atlanta in this division where we're like, oh,
yep.
Look at everything they did, okay? The Packers, they were the hottest team in football, and now it feels like people are jumping off that bandwagon. I'm not going to do that. I'm really not. Could you see a sophomore slump, so to speak? I don't know. I don't know if it works that way for a guy who's probably almost 30 years old now, Jordan Love, okay? But I do think this team's growing up together. They got the youngest roster in the NFL, the baby Packers. Mm-hmm. You remember the baby Bulls?
I do.
They did not do so well.
No, I know.
Eddie Curry.
I know.
Tyson Chandler.
I got you.
A lot of losing.
It's a complicated metaphor for people who probably don't like Chicago a whole lot. So the baby Packers here, hopefully better than the baby Bulls. I think the big question for me offensively is, can Josh Jacobs be the workhorse that I think he might have to be? I know LaFleur doesn't like giving a guy the ball a bunch and just being like, hey, you 30 times a game. Like, he wants to spread the ball around. But A.J. Dillon has a neck. They just got this kid back, the rookie here.
Marshawn Lloyd.
Yeah. And they have Emmanuel Wilson, who I think might have a really nice year. If you listen to what people are saying out of Green Bay, Emmanuel Wilson had a nice preseason. So I'm not saying, that it's going to be a shit show, but Josh Jacobs is a physical guy with a lot of wear and tear on his body. You think about running backs, prototypical running back workload. This guy has been the guy, right? And I worried about him catching the ball out of the backfield. It sounds like they're really impressed with him catching the ball out of the backfield. That's a lot to replace in Aaron Jones. Who's the number one at receiver? Hey, Matt, I'm with you. Who gives a fuck? Let's go win, right? Did the Eagles need a number one in 2017? I know that like Alshon was our first receiver, but I don't think anybody around the league was like, oh, Alshon's an elite one. Who's your number one? I think it's Romeo Doubs, man. I think this is the year. Okay. I think what people have seen is like the flashes, the athleticism that's hard to deny. Supposedly he's a great worker. You talk to people up there, he's all ball. I think this could be the year for him to take that big jump. And next year, we're not going to be talking about who's the number one. Reed's been great for them, right? I mean, he is him and Wicks. Our guy, Dontavian Wicks, who we interviewed in Green Bay. If you're a Packers fan, you stumble upon this. We did a whole camp visit. Check out our interviews. But these are all guys with different skill sets. Wicks, one of the best man beaters in the league last year. That's something he can hang his hat on. This is what I do. And for a guy like that to build a reputation like that a year into his career, that's fantastic. With the game on the line, you can go to him. And Christian Watson has been a nightmare from a standpoint of health, availability, but not for nothing. He did miss 8 games last year with separate hammy issues. He went to the Wisconsin School of Medicine and Public Health this offseason.
To do what?
To figure out what the fuck was wrong with his hamstring.
Okay, I didn't know if he was taking classes.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. That would have been.
Yeah. Also cool.
Would have been a weird. He was taking some classes this offseason. But they did like 8-10 hours of testing. Find out he's got asymmetries in his hammies. The right one's weak. And he put a lot of money into the discovery process. Like, these are the things that, now this might mean nothing. It might be some fun articles selling some hope to people about his availability this year. But it also might mean that he's making a breakthrough with his health as an NFL player. And guys with hammies, they kind of tend to keep having hammies. So the outcome is not
tending to keep having hammies.
You got it.
Yeah.
So I think it's one of those situations where if he does fix it because of some special discovery period that he's gone about this offseason, he will be the exception, not the rule. But I think it is good to hear that he is trying to get to the bottom of why his body is the way it is. And I hate this for guys. Guys will get reputations. Christian Watson has one that's less than great in Green Bay because he's a high pick, because there's so much talent. It's identifiable. You can see it, but he hasn't been able to stay on the field. And he doesn't have control over that. He's not trying to pull his hammy 5 times a year. I hope this works out for him, for the Packers and for him. It's pretty wild. They were talking about how different the strength level was. It was a lot. I mean, I understand why he's been hurt so much hearing this thing explained.
Feels like it could be a bit of a racket. You put him in the tube, say, oh, we see some different striations here. What we're going to want you to do is strengthen this hamstring. It's a bit weaker.
Well, it does seem like a long time to go figure out that one hamstring's weaker, right? But I kind of trust
medical doctors.
Yeah. I thought you did.
Yeah, no, I do.
Yeah. So I'm looking at this and I'm saying, hey, maybe there's a little daylight with him. I don't know. Musgrave, Kraft, people talk about Musgrave like he could be a breakout star, right? Nolan, we saw these guys. I mean, you like Tucker Kraft.
Yeah, both of them. Musgrave probably more of a receiver. Kraft, you get the combo skill set, but both of them really exciting.
I think it was Musgrave last year that missed 6 games with a kidney laceration, and he was big for them in that Cowboys playoff game. So
I'd strengthen that kidney.
Yeah, he should go in and get some testing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I've never seen a kidney just so cowardly. You got one of the most cowardly kidneys ever.
Whatever happened?
Bump into the fridge and you lacerate your kidney.
Hey, Nolan, where's my guy Robert Tonyan these days?
He is in Chicago.
Is that right?
He's in Chicago. He's joining the greatest show on fucking Bermuda grass. Well, they don't have Fescue. Greatest show on Fescue.
Uh-huh.
That's what we're going to call the Chicago Bears.
He's
Without
on the
even taking
Minnesota
the field.
Vikings.
He's in the Vikings?
He's on the Vikings.
He
He
was
was on the
on
Bears
the
last
fucking
year.
Bears. How does that happen? Free agency? I'll be damned.
Wow. Wow.
How far can people see?
Look at this.
He's at 3 out of 4 NFC North.
No, sir. All 4. He hit them all. Lions, Packers, Bears, Vikings.
Yeah, he's run through the whole division, huh?
Yeah,
he's just
like
the
Brandy
NFC.
Love. It's the Brandy Love of the
You're
NFC
taking
North.
a lot of shots. No, Hollywood Brown. You're taking a lot of shots at Brandy Love.
I mean, if
the shoe fits, wear it.
She's used to taking shots. It's fine.
All right.
I thought that's what he was saying.
You guys are assholes. What if Brandy stuck around to hear the fucking? She turned it off at the Lions. I think she's a Detroit gal, Michigan gal. Okay, so we haven't even got to the offensive line, and I'm curious what you think, Nolan, because I think they might have an issue. As I mentioned, the running back depth is a little jacked up. Like, depends on what the workload's going to be for Josh Jacobs. But when I look at like Telfort and Dillard being your first 2 tackles on the field, if somebody gets dinged, like if you know the name Andre Dillard, nothing personal, it just hasn't gone well. Like, he should not be out there at this point unless he takes a big step, right? He can't be somebody's 3rd tackle. It sounds like they favor Telfort over Dillard, and Dillard's hurt. So, I worry about that. Obviously, Zach Tom is a guy we know. Elton Jenkins. Jordan Morgan's the rookie. He was a good-looking kid at camp.
Looked great, yeah. And guard might be a better spot for him long-term, too.
Yeah, maybe. They got some big fucking bodies. It's funny, when we go to the Eagles camp and then go to somebody else's camp, we're like, what are these, miniature people? And then we get to Green Bay's camp on the tail end of it. I'm like, man, they are built big too. I mean, like, they just are. They're a big physical team, and that's what they're going to need going to Sao Paulo, right, to play the Eagles and try to compete with all the, rival gangs out there.
2.5 point
That's
dog.
for your running back, Packers. The guy who I just talked about, he's the one who told me there's gangs down there. I don't believe it. Say again?
2.5 point dog.
All the gangs are in Aurora.
Against the Eagles.
No, Brazil's safe. Somebody's going to be mad at me about that. I didn't even say what I think, you pussies. All right. So, anyways, we've gotten off the rails here a little bit. Let's get into the defense. Preston Smith, Kenny Clark, TJ Slaton, Rashawn Gary. Give me that. I like that. I like that group. Love Rashawn Gary. Love Kenny Clark. The linebacker group here, Cooper's got to get healthy, as you pointed out, Nolan, because you're replacing Campbell with Wilson, and I don't know that Wilson's going to be any better than Campbell. It's not like one of those things where you're replacing Patrick Queen and there's excitement around Trenton Simpson, or I'm thinking about some other backer that's been replaced somewhere. But I look at this and I say it's not necessarily an upgrade, and that was a position of need last year, in my opinion. This is not a fast backer group. Like last year when you watch Walker and Kemp, Walker's fucking huge. He's a big physical cat. So, when the opponent demands a little speed at this position, I don't know. Jair Alexander of Charlotte, he's one of your corners. You've got Xavier McKinney as the big headliner coming in at safety. He's going to be paired with Javon Bullard. I'll talk about that in a second. But Eric Stokes, the other corner, going back through his timeline, started kind of hot, looked like a player, got hurt. He's been trying to get healthy. Most of his career in the Packers didn't pick up his option. So this is a prove-it year for him. There is some optimism, right? Xavier McKinney, total stud. Took him from your Giants.
Yep.
Javon Bullard, he's the rookie, right? And he's actually the 5th one that the Packers have started rookie year, dating back to 2005 with Nick Collins. That's a lot of – they like fucking rolling these young safeties out. And there's no better year to do it because you're playing next to Xavier McKinney. This is – and hearing Bullard talk about the effect that McKinney's had on him, it's been great. They also drafted Evan Williams, who's also said it's been great learning from McKinney. And the nickel, Nixon, I think he's going to have a big year returning the football, right? He's a great special teams guy, but he's going to have to work hard to stick a nickel. because there are other guys in this room. So Hafley's the big thing. Like, what's that going to look like? Because you kind of had a guy last year there that people were ready to run out of town, and they eventually did. But he's making the jump from college. He was at BC,
which is now a powerhouse.
It's a powerhouse. But Chin O'Brien, Dimple Chin O'Brien, 2017, 2018 was under Saleh, right? In San Francisco as a DB's coach. So they were great defenses. They got a track record of success. Same system as the Jets, same system as the 49ers. So if you're wondering what they're going to run, it's pretty clear to see, if you know Ryan's, what he prefers down in Houston, if you know what San Francisco in the various formats that they've run that defense have run, that's what they're going to do. So I think the Packers, ceiling floor kind of thing, right? People are nudging me towards their floor, but I also think their ceiling's pretty fucking high, man. Why not? I know we're going to seem optimistic about a lot of these teams, but why can't the Packers be in the playoffs again? They just paid their guy, and word in the building when we went there, the vibes were great, and they love this quarterback. And when we went there, it was like week 2, 3 in camp, right? It was like a month in. So had it been a thing where he was struggling and that was kind of a narrative, I think people would have said less when you asked about Jordan Love. Like, people were all about this guy, his leadership, the steps he's taken on the field. Let's get to the Bears, the greatest show on fescue. Caleb Williams era begins right now, starts right now. New coordinator in town as well, Shane Waldron from Seattle. We talked about that in the offseason. We kind of did a deep dive into what he's all about. If you're a Bears fan and you want to go back, check it out. That's out there in the wind somewhere. But I'm not going to get into the scheme so much as I'm going to get into just what do you need out of Williams? You need him to stay healthy, because Bajan's the backup. You don't want to get this kid killed the first year. Like, I know he's going to be Patrick Mahomes year one, but I don't know if you saw Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl a couple years ago when the whole fucking offensive line was hurt. I'm not saying this offensive line is as bad as that offensive line they trotted out there for that Super Bowl, but there are questions. It's not the worst offensive line I've ever seen a guy start in front of. It's also not the best, okay? And the wide receiving core could be special, right? Keenan Allen, he's older. There's rumors he got fat, but he looks fine to me, okay? And he's Keenan Allen. I trust Keenan Allen. I don't think Keenan Allen moved to Chicago and started putting all that shit on his hot dog and gained a bunch of weight on accident. I'm pretty sure there's something to him putting on weight.
He's out this week with some foot discomfort.
Now, maybe that's a lot of weight bearing down his foot.
And what I took away from Hard Knocks, the moments that I watched, was that he can't catch a ball when going against Jalen Johnson.
But that's probably more a compliment to Jalen.
That was the intent.
Yeah.
It was also like,
I'm going to believe he's Keenan Allen until I see he's not. Now, the leap of faith, and DJ Moore. The leap of faith for me is that Rome Odunze is going to be like, it was like the minute they drafted him, and in pre-draft, everybody was like, and listen, you can tell I get exacerbated with certain fucking narratives. It's not because I don't like the Bears. One of my best friends that I played football with in college, Ian Yates Cunningham, works side by side with Ryan Poles. I want him to be a GM one day. I want everything they do to turn to gold. I think it'd be a lot of fun. Chicago fans deserve this. But it was like, as soon as they drafted Odunze, you're like, we got it. Like, how could we lose? I think they're going to play Tennessee week 1, and I think it's going to be a battle. Mm-hmm. This is the NFL. Caleb Williams threw 20 passes in the preseason. You want to know what the hoodie thinks about it on Inside the NFL. He almost wouldn't comment. He was like 20 throws. I want to see more.
Yet he's somehow plus 125 to be offensive rookie of the year.
And I would take a flyer on that. The guy's going to make some spectacular plays. I think also when you look at the preseason, teams are holding back. And it was the same with McCarthy, and I praise McCarthy, but they asked McCarthy to do more than they asked Williams to do in those preseason games. McCarthy probably threw 20 passes the game that he fucked his knee up alone, right?
Do you know how many of the 20 Caleb completed?
10.
That's right.
Yeah, 10 of 20. And he had some impressive play extension. Listen, the ceiling on this kid is so high.
It's the roof.
It's the roof. But What you don't want him to do is get fucked up behind Braxton Jones, Tevin Jenkins, Ryan Bates, Nate Davis, and Darnell Wright, who, again, it's not a group litter with bad players. Braxton Jones, you need consistency. They probably drafted the Yale kid to replace him in a year, I would think. Darnell Wright, they could have had Jalen Carter. They went with Wright, and Poles has stood by it. They like this guy. He's real good in the run game. Nate Davis, experienced. Tevin Jenkins has been up and down, right? He's had to bounce around a little bit positionally. Okay, so far what I've done is describe to you the Bears offense. And this has got to be a group that comes out firing on all cylinders, because you don't want to go in as a wild card. I mean, you want to go into the playoffs. If you're a Bears fan, you're not going to argue if you're 9-8 and go into the playoffs. You're a wild card team, try to go win on the road. But like a rookie quarterback going to win on the road in the playoffs, like you got to win this division if you want to make serious noise, in my opinion. Okay, so they got to start fast. New coordinator, rookie quarterback, offensive line, a lot of continuity, but some new pieces. Wide receiving core is totally fucking new, minus DJ Moore. Cole Kmet, really nice player. Gerald Everett, who I actually think has shown flashes of being a really good pass catcher in this league, especially the rack. Okay, Swift, Herbert Johnson, three-headed monster. Not a lot to hate about this group, but I just want to see it come together. Is that fair? You know what I mean? This is not like me doing a Tua thing, okay? I think Caleb Williams could be special. My trepidation about making the pick more has to do with the fact that you're just playing a numbers game. It's an odds game. The special guy could be Jaden Daniels, and you had a quarterback, you shipped him away. Now you live with it, and I think the ceiling is really high with this guy, but you don't want to get him killed the first year. And so I would just I would be running this offense if I was Shane Waldron, not forgetting about the run game, not forgetting about maxing up to take shots, not forgetting about moving the pocket, which they did in preseason. I would try not to get this guy killed. That would be my number one goal. And if you can come out of the season with 8-9 wins and he's upright the whole season and Bajan doesn't have to come in, that's a huge fucking win. I think I said like a month ago or 2 months ago, we went through with Kyle before he went to CBS and left us all here in this shithole, that I said, Kyle, I'm going to go through the whole schedule with you. Of course, he's like, win. And I'm just picking and I'm saying, hey, the NFL's hard. And I think I had them like 8-9. Now, I don't want to be disrespectful. They could win 10 games. I think the ceiling on this team is double digits. We've seen rookie quarterbacks play well before.
Favorable schedule.
We just saw it last year. Okay, I'm not saying he can't be CJ Stroud, but what I am saying is I got to see it first. I didn't pick Houston to win the division last year, but I'm going to do it this year. Okay, spoiler.
Even money to make and miss the playoffs for the Chicago Bears.
These guys.
Yeah,
that's all I'm saying. Like if you're a Bears fan, like temper your expectations. Don't do the thing where because you've been dealing with everything you've been dealing with since Rex Grossman left you guys, you're gonna fucking be on top of the Sears Tower, week 5 if you're 2-3. Like there could be growing pains.
Bill Murray, 27-year-old guard, is providing some offensive line depth. Bill Murray
in Chicago,
out of William and Mary.
Wasn't there a Michael Jordan offensive line that was playing for maybe the Panthers or something last year?
He was from Ohio State. He bounced around. He played for the Bengals, Panthers.
We need a Bill Murray, Michael Jordan crossover. Get them on the same team.
And if Bill Murray and company don't support Caleb Williams, the fans are going to be asking, what about Bob Avellini, the quarterback who led the Bears to their first playoff appearance in 1970-something and died in May at age 70?
That's really good. Some of them not so much, but that was a really dynamite drop in.
Thank you.
Might get lost in translation.
I the only worry is that's really good. All right. You ever seen Caddyshack? So, anyways, my biggest concern is probably the group getting frustrated up front because he is a rookie, and although he's really confident, he likes to extend plays. This group has given up over 100 sacks over the last 2 years. That's not going to happen this year. He's going to be more mobile than not more mobile than Fields, but maybe he's going to have a better pocket presence. Okay, like Fields didn't seem to process well at times. I think Williams sees the field. It's just going to be not getting too fucking greedy, not varying your drive. If you want to be Mahomes early, maybe don't do as Mahomes does with the 9, 11, 13-yard drop target. You're drifting right because these guys aren't that good, right? They could get down on themselves. The defense is fantastic, okay? It's an exciting team, man. You look at them. I understand why you fucking Bears fans are jacked up, okay? I understand why Kyle Long's all excited standing on the table for Caleb Williams, even though he said don't draft him. Okay? He was right there with me, like, stick with Fields. Then one day he was like, you know what? I'm seeing the light. And I don't blame you. Okay? Sweat.
For a second. Remember that?
What?
People were like, oh, too rich. A second-round pick for Montez Sweat.
Oh, yeah. No.
They went gangbusters.
Yes, dude. And we did say this coming out of that trade. Like, at first, there were some conflicting reports about how the trade went down. And we were like, oh, I love the player, but maybe not how they did it because he didn't sign a contract immediately, but he did sign the contract. And we also said he's the better rusher out of those two guys that were bought in that yard sale. Mm-hmm. Okay, there's no disrespect to Chase Young, but I think that was proved to be right. Sweat was fucking fantastic for them last year. Changed the whole defense. You know, another guy that doesn't get enough credit is TJ Edwards, right? They stole him from Philly. They still miss him in Philly. Him and Edmonds, really good group. Sanborn's in there. But it's the other guys on the D-line for me. Okay, like Billings was a run stuffer, did a great job in the run game last year. They signed him to an extension during the season. DeMarcus Walker's got to step up, right? Like, that's a big question mark for me. And then Gervin Dexter, he's an X factor. If Gervin Dexter can take a step, like just a step, not a leap. We're not expecting a leap. He's 350 pounds. Psych, he lost some weight.
312.
Yep, he's down to 312. So, you know, when you hear coaches talk about him, it's like it almost sounds like reading between the lines that he was thinking too much. I don't want to put thoughts in their head, but when you hear like
especially not if they're thinking too much.
Exactly. You want to take the thoughts out of their head. Montez Sweat said, let the chains go, man. Like, just play. And that I'm paraphrasing, but when you're saying take the chains off and go, that means like something was handcuffing you last year. And it wasn't just conditioning or weight. It might have been processing. It might have been him overthinking it. Sometimes you're a rookie and you don't have a great D-line coach. You might not feel believed in. I think he's got to have a big year. What he said was really telling. And I'm almost not positive how to interpret this, but Gervin Dexter said, the day we left, Coach Trav told me, when you come back, I don't want to notice you. I don't want you to look the same, walk the same, talk the same. That was his thing to me. So I made that my goal. So he's trying to completely reinvent himself, which speaks to how the rookie year went. Like, it is a narrative in the building that he's got to have a big year, and year one wasn't good enough. Hey, it takes time with some D linemen. He's got to take a jump. Jalen Johnson, you said it, stud, right? Got him paid. Tyreek Stevenson opposite him, Brisker, Byard. The one question for me, Byard is older, and I was surprised to see that Philly got the blunt end of that trade. You know what I mean? Because he was not very good in Philly, and quite frankly, he didn't look like the same player. But Chicago paid him, so I kind of worry about the depth behind these guys. I don't know about you, Noel.
Mr. Simone Biles.
Yeah, Mr. Simone Biles is there.
Agree. Yeah, I mean, if he's the guy running with the starters, you can't feel good about what's behind him.
Yeah, and although he does add experience, and maybe they keep him out of trouble, Eberflus might know better than the guys that were in Philly last year how to not put him in fucked up situations. Kyler Gordon at nickel, like, this is a top 10 defense. You know, like, I think it is. It played like a top 10 defense at various stretches of the season last year. I think it just all comes down to, how do you protect Caleb Williams? How do you not get out over your skis? And how do you not go in the tank as a fan base if it doesn't start like gangbusters? Okay, the fan base has no effect on the game, but I hope you guys are patient with this kid, because that's what he is, he's a kid. He might be Caleb fucking Williams with the longest highlight reel in college football history, but he also had some lowlights, and, you know, we'll see.
Yeah, careful. You know that cursive B that the Bears use? They've turned it into a 1 and an 8.
Oh, boy.
Stylistically.
Yeah, it's a lot of cart before the horse, but maybe he's that good. You know, I haven't talked to a lot of people. I wouldn't say, hey, Ian, Do you feel like you got it right? Because what's he going to tell me? I'm a little worried about him.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't heard anything negative out of that camp. And honestly, I've been impressed with the way he's handled himself. Like, people are just all over the kid. It's about his nails or a fucking purse or crying after a game. I could give a fuck less if he's throwing piss missiles out there outside the numbers and he's impossible to get down in the pocket. I don't care. And he also seems confident in the right way. He really doesn't rub me wrong.
And the other headliner from that draft is 27-year-old Australian punter Tory Taylor from Iowa. In Melbourne, he went to a high school called Haley Berry.
Nice.
Yeah. Not to be confused with actress
Hailey or Hailey Bieber.
Halle Berry.
Or Hailey Bieber.
Yeah. Yep.
And
by actress, I mean actor. I want to be the change that I want to see in this world.
Okay. All right, here we go. Vikings to round out the NFC North. And no disrespect to the Vikings or Vikings fans, this is just kind of the order of things right now. You bring in Sam Darnold, I'm excited about it, but you got to prove that this is the right move. He's got to prove it on the field. I think KOC is a great coach. I think in a year we're going to walk away either saying, wow, KOC, or KOC on the hot seat, and whether that's fair or not, he just has not had consistent quarterback play since Kirk walked out of the building.
He doesn't get a pass this year?
I think he gets a pass, but you know how idiots are.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of KOC. If KOC got fired next year for some crazy fucking reason, I don't think it's going to happen. I'd hire him in a heartbeat to my NFL team.
Or this podcast.
He's like our age.
Yeah.
He's super cool, dude. During practice, he walked over, dapped us up. And like when you assume that somebody doesn't want to talk to you, you try to give him like 3 outs. He never left. Like they were doing team period and he was just like bullshitting with us. He's like, maybe pay attention to team period, coach, but I appreciate the hospitality. He's just a cool guy and the players love him. I got to say this. I know we're not doing a lot of roster stuff so far with this team. The vibe in that building is great. Talk about everybody being bought in. I can tell you they're bought in there. And from the training staff, Tyler Williams does a great job. He's like a trainer and a sports scientist type guy. He was my trainer in St. Louis with the Rams, widely respected, works in lockstep with Josh Hinks, who was a Super Bowl strength coach. By the way, the Packers, going backwards for a second, they had a brand new strength staff come in this year, and their team is really healthy. I don't know if that's a coincidence, but sometimes the thing we overlook is what's going on in that weight room, right? I think Josh Hinks is great. They really do have a very progressive program. And I mean that from like a sports science standpoint, from a player relationship standpoint. I think everybody there feels very heard and is very happy. Now the vibes can change very quickly if things go south this year, but I liked what I saw when I went up there. The problem is they're probably a year away, right? I look at this offense and I say, if Sam Darnold is who I think he can be, they can be really, really frisky. That's the way I would describe them. When you have Justin Jefferson, obviously it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. He's gonna do numbers. Addison's healthy. Jalen Naylor, I believe, was dinged.
But he was also Speedy that Justin Jefferson was referring to.
He was calling him Speedy.
Yep. That we were all. You asked him.
Loves Naylor.
Who's going to surprise people this year? Speedy.
Yep.
Jalen Naylor.
Hawkinson's out, which is another thing.
Barely even know her. It's a Jalen Naylor joke.
Naylor. I did Naylor. Okay. I was going with his nickname. Okay. Jefferson, Addison, Naylor.
Naylor?
Yeah, got it.
A year away with Sam or with JJ, who they don't.
It could be JJ, but I mean the roster as a whole. I mean, you bring in Aaron Jones, Ty Chandler's the other back. I think the offensive line's very good. Darisaw, O'Neal, like studs out at tackle. You don't have to worry about that. Brendel, Bradbury, Ed Ingram, not as good inside, but like this isn't a bad group. And Sam Darnold's got more mobility than people realize. I think Justin Jefferson spoke to that when we were in Minnesota. I just think KOC is a play designer, as like a quarterback whisperer. I don't care if like Josh Jobs just got off the plane and hey, this is how we're going to run the thing. Mm-hmm. Like he actually got through a game last year where they were like relaying the calls and the cadence in real time. Like he was on the sideline getting the cadence down pregame. He came straight from the fucking Greyhound station. I don't even think they flew him in. Okay. And they still were, maybe they beat the Falcons with that group. I mean, it was not like beating the 72 Dolphins, but
big game.
That was an impressive feat, and so were some
4.
of the. I mean, they went toe to toe with Cincinnati in a great game last year, where Cincinnati, and Minnesota are kind of playing for their lives late in the season. They had some really impressive spots offensively against Detroit, where they hung in there. I like the group.
Went from 7-6 to 7-10 when Nick Mullins took over.
Yeah, that was the hiccup, right? Like where they couldn't keep the Dobbs magic going. Maybe they can get some magic going with Darnold. The interior, the defensive line, not great. We love Harrison Phillips. He's a guy that he's kind of a quarterback of the defense on the interior. Tillery, Bullard. They've got 3 edge guys to kind of choose from, right? How you want to employ these guys. Van Ginkel, they bring in from Miami. Dallas Turner, who cut his dreads. Hope he's not going through something. The old adage, if you cut your hair, you grow a beard, a la Danny Dimes. Something's going on. Joe Burrow's fucking Slim Shady haircuts. We'll see. But they brought in Grenard from Houston. Really like this edge group. And you're trying to replace Hunter, right? You're not going to do it with one guy. I like the versatility here. Van Ginkel especially, very versatile guy. Stood next to him in Minnesota, got a chance to talk to him. He's a big motherfucker. I mean, he's all of 6'5". I mean, I was looking up at him. Didn't realize that watching him on the field. Linebackers, Cashman, they bring in from Houston. Pace really came on as an adder, adding to pressures. He's very good, but got his feet under him and did everything else at a pretty high level last year. So they like Pace, love Metellus. We always talk about the positionless dudes as we're running down this list of position groups. I don't even know what to call him. Slot corner, 396 snaps. Box, 377 snaps. D-line, 206 snaps. Free safety, 55. Corner, 29 last year. And if you ask him what he is, he's a DB. He's a DB that took fucking 206 snaps on the defensive line last year. They love this guy. Can't say enough about him. They bring in Gilmore in the middle of camp. That's a big deal. Smith, Bynum. Griffin is the other guy. He's got 79 starts on his career. So experience there. And Byron Murphy is like another mini chess piece. I really do think that you go through his snap breakdown, 600 snaps outside, 214 in the slot, 68 in the box, 9 at free safety, 19 on defensive line. Got hurt, but he's going to be really important. Okay. Like last year, he had some injuries, and not a bad group considering they just shipped Scene out of town, and he was one of their first picks that Mensa even made. In fact, both Scene and the other guy, Booth, those 2 guys, not there anymore. This is very first draft, very first 2 picks. I think they've done a good job of stabilizing. They just need to figure out who the quarterback is. And I was excited about JJ, but you're rolling with Sam. And I think just from a human interest angle, you're looking at a guy on his last leg who I kind of want to see how bad the Adam Gase Jets were. I kind of want to see how bad the Matt Rule Panthers were, and I think we'll find out this year.
Sam returns to MetLife week 1 at the New York Giants.
Revenge, baby. Sorry about saying that, but they're going to beat the Giants week 1.
Frisky Giants.
Okay.
Would you say KOC is a better coach or better person?
I think that'd be unfair to him.
I can answer it.
Okay.
Better coach.
Yeah.
Everybody says, oh, good player, even better person. Really? There are only 32 NFL head coaches.
Yeah, I used to hate that. When somebody say that about me, I'm like, do I suck?
Yeah. Fuck off.
You don't know that I'm a good person.
Yeah. All right.
Kind of a shithead. I drink almond milk out of the carton when my family's not looking. Mm-hmm. Hide that from my family.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Yeah. I said, hey, it's your goddaughter's birthday. You said, fuck yourself.
Pretty much. I had somebody tweet me yesterday and they were like, I'm on Macon's side. Here's why. Some people have a hard time being nice, and that's not really their fault.
So I was the person who has a hard time being nice?
Yes.
I think Matt said it best. I can't remember what he said, but I think he said it best.
We don't need to play for this.
Yeah. I don't know how to be casual. Is that right?
That's true.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
I know how to be casual.
Yeah, you do.
That's why this works.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about
The Beast?
The NFC Beast.
Yeah.
Which, as we know, like, this is a fucking baton festival, right? Who's getting the baton this year? I think it's the Eagles. Let's do you guys a favor. Ladies first. Cowboys?
Nice.
Just joking. There's nothing wrong with being a lady at all. But I'm going to let the Cowboys go first.
Okay.
Okay.
America's team.
Also, I don't think the ladies first thing should be a thing anymore. We're all equal, right?
Right.
I'm going to jump in front of a bunch of women like at every door I see in 2025.
With a T-shirt, big letters.
I'm a feminist. I'm a feminist. Just the thud when the door hits the first woman that I don't hold it for is going to be. Anyways, we'll start with the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you know their starting running back is Ezekiel Elliott?
And that's the problem. Well, there's a couple problems with this team. And honestly, when I got into like talking about the Cowboys, like really going through the roster, and I've said this, I'm like, man, I am so tempted to take the under on this 10.5 win total. Excuse me for talking gambling for a second, but sometimes it illustrates a point that transcends gambling. Okay. That's juiced to minus 200.
And it's 9.5.
It's down to 9.5.
They moved down over the course of the last.
So what's the juice?
Wow.
The under 9.5 is plus 120. Over is minus 145.
Okay, so I might actually take that because it's a little bit more attractive. But I do worry a little bit about it because I look at this team and I'm like, you know what? The defense might be good enough. Now we'll get there in a second. Okay, the Dak thing is really interesting. I was reading an article. KD Drummond wrote this. About how good this contract is that he's currently playing under, not only because of the no trade clause, but also because he forced the second tag before signing and added a no tag clause. So that's kind of like why we're here. He's got Jerry by the plums, dude. If so, not enough attention's been paid to how good the deal was. Maybe I kind of missed all the details on that deal, but that's why he has so much leverage. He's got every reason in the world to wait, right? Like there's a lot that you could say would be motivation for him to wait it out and hit the market. Like, number one, you don't know how the team's going to look next year. If he hits the market, his price goes up. It could be a bidding war. But more interestingly, I think there could be a coaching change. And so you'd hate to have a coach come in and run something you don't like, right? Or worse yet, clash with you. Like that happens. And he's no longer Dak Prescott, even though he was being talked about like an MVP last year. I think some of the shines wore off that like 5 years ago, whoever comes in the middle of this deal, whoever comes in, they're going to say Dak's our quarterback. But it's not out of the realm possibility that somebody replaces Mike McCarthy next year and they say, hey, thanks, but no thanks. Thank you for your service.
Because he'll be 32-year-old.
He's going to be 32-year-old Dak, and maybe the guy wants to start fresh. And I wouldn't blame him, right? I still got a lot of respect for Dak. You'd hate for that situation to happen. If you want to take this thing to the brink, and I'm starting to believe that he just wants to be a Cowboy for life, right? But he wants to hit the market, drive up the price. There's a chance that happens. So, like, there's a lot at play when you look at the big picture stuff with this team. But this year, I don't think it's as bad as maybe I thought 10 days ago. Pedestrian running back room. There is this thought with Dallas because you're so used to the Zeke days where he was jumping in the Salvation Army bucket every 5 minutes. And the Eagles never beat him. The only time we ever beat the fucking Cowboys while I was there, and I found out that it had been a while, they had Alfred Morris as the running back. Zeke got hurt. We beat him. Like, they have owned the division in that form, right? Like they were dominant up front. They had a really good run game. That's not going to be the case this year. Okay. Like, I'm not saying the O-line's not going to be great. That's part of the reason why I'm kind of back in. Like, I've been giving Guyton his flowers, the guy from Oklahoma. Yep. I liked him coming in. I think we were right about that. I think he's a good player. We're going to have time to see if that holds up through the year at that tackle spot. He's playing left tackle. Steele's the opposite guy. Can be a little bit of a problem in pass pro, but he's big. He's physical, so they like him. Tyler Smith, stud. Love it. So that's a couple years in a row they seem to have hit on the offensive line picks. They still have Zach Martin, obviously, who they picked years ago, Hall of Famer. And I love CD Lamb. Congrats to him. Like, he's just a hell of a ball player. But outside of him, I kind of worry. So, like, when you look at the running back room, if CD got dinged, that's a big if, they're in trouble, right? They do have Jake Ferguson, and that's a big deal. I want to be fair to this team because I look at the Bills and I look at them glass half full. Maybe that's because I'm biased and I love Josh Allen. But, they're trotting out a group of Keon Coleman, Curtis Samuel, Khalil Shakir, 2 stud tight ends, and a running back who's a good target out of the backfield. But I don't think that if you added it all up, you would say that the receiving core in Dallas is a lot worse than that receiving core because they have CeeDee Lamb. And the tight end's not that much worse if he's not better than Kincaid or Dawson Knox. So, like, I don't want to be unfair to this group. I think the offensive line is actually probably better than the Bills' offensive line. And so, like, there's a case to be made for that if this rookie pans out and everybody stays healthy. Here's where it gets interesting. The defense, man. They're going to be pretty good. I was wondering, like, when you have something like they had on defense, I know sometimes you make a change or the guy gets a head coaching job. And I was worried about Mike Zimmer coming in cold and running his defense, which is very different than Dan Quinn's. And I was worried that maybe it would look a little different to the point where guys would have trouble adjusting or Micah Parsons might not be employed in an effective manner. Because, like, again, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? But it's actually quite the opposite. The more I read about it, I don't think we're going to see a versatility dip in usage for Mike. I actually think it's going to be the opposite. In 22, 23, he was 82 and 87% of the time lined up on the defensive line. Okay. Compared to his rookie year, it was 41%. So a big jump over the last 2 years in having him up front. I think he weighed about 255 pounds was the claim. He's down to 240. What that says to me, especially because Mike Zimmer, like, if you remember Mike Zimmer's defenses, it's an over defense, right? Like, they're going to play some over, which means the defensive end is going to be head up on a tight end. I don't see Micah Parsons in that situation, especially when I hear that he's 240, especially when I hear that Mike Zimmer's talking about his versatility and him looking at this team last year and saying, fuck, I knew right where this guy was going to be. Like, I'm sitting there watching on the couch and I know down the stretch why sometimes he disappeared, and it wasn't his fault. It was because the Cowboys made it too easy to have a plan for him. And Zimmer's like, hey, we're going to overload the fucking protection. We're going to make him have one-on-ones. We're going to force them to block a bunch of other guys if they're going to bring 3 or 2 or half the line's going to slide to Micah Parsons. So I think he's aware of the fact that you got to get him freed up. The fact that he's slimmed down probably means that he's going to play more off the ball. And I like that. I like that because you look at this linebacker room. You need guys that can move around. You need, like, him mugged up in the A gap. It's a scary prospect. I mean, like, him, Kendricks, whoever else they have at linebacker. They have Overshone, who's been hurt, and they're excited about his athleticism. You still have Damone Clark. You're gonna use more 3 linebacker sets in general, so you got to be able to play this guy off the ball. That's at least what I think. I don't know about you, Noel, but I look at the Zimmer defense and I'm like, oh fuck. He's going to use him with some versatility.
Yeah, hearing you talk through it, I was thinking back to those Vikings defenses with, like, an Anthony Barr.
Yes.
And, like, how he would, both on and off ball, you'd see him all over the field. Maybe that's kind of the vision there.
Exactly, dude. And so I had trepidation about it, but now I feel a lot better having read where he was in camp and the things that Zimmer said. And he had a lot of praise for Parsons, and Parsons had a lot of praise for him. And so, like, when I say coming out of that Green Bay game that Parsons didn't play like shit, I promise you he didn't. Like, they just had a plan for him. The best players in the world sometimes can get taken away if you decide to do it as an offense. And the same thing goes for Bill Belichick, preparing for an offense as a D coordinator. You talk about all the times that he's been like, that guy's not going to beat us, right? That can happen in this league. So you don't want to be able to have this guy taken away. And Mike Zimmer seems like he's cued in on that. I think some guys are going to have to step up on the edge. I love Tank, DeMarcus Lawrence, one of my favorite players. But Nealon's got to have a big year because Sam Williams went down. They lost Armstrong. They lost Fowler.
Shout out Linville Joseph, born in the 80s. There are not many
80s baby.
80s guys.
Still out there.
Yeah.
And the big thing for me is going to be communication, because if you know Mike Zimmer's defense, a lot of late rotations. He used to have Harrison Smith down there at the line of scrimmage, and it might look like single high, and all of a sudden it's two, and there's two guys mugged up in the A gap, and there's just a lot of moving parts. So the communication has got to be big, and it's got to be big on the back end, right? Like they just can't drop coverages. I honestly think part of the place that you're going to be able to hurt this team is with explosives, as funny as that sounds, because Deron Bland just went down, and they were a gambling ass group last year. Like they picked the ball off, they scored, they were very ball hawking, so to speak. But I think this year they got to, at least out of the gate, be a little bit more sound, right? Like it's a new defense. There's going to be some moving parts. You're going to have to dip into the in the bag with the third corner, like Kalen Carson, the guy that got out of Wake in the fifth. I think when they drafted him, I don't think anybody was like, oh, he's going to need to play, right? But if you look at and this was a tweet from Reed Hansen, August 6th. I almost feel like he made this happen. CB4 may not sound like an impactful position on the depth chart for Kalen Carson, but the cornerback on the Cowboys, and of course he's talking about the fourth cornerback, has posted an average of 664 snaps the past 2 seasons. If history is any indicator, he's going to see significant action. And he's also going to play a lot of man. Okay, so this guy is going to have to be big. Okay, and they took a stab at him. Now he's going to play. Bland went down. They were able to kind of stick the landing last year when they lost Diggs, but you can't expect to have another historic year out of a guy that you didn't see coming, right? I think this guy's going to be hugely important.
Can I tell you what I can do with this defense?
Yeah.
That tip to you.
Yeah.
Bland, overshown hooker, Diggs Johnson.
No, that's good.
It's a headline you might read.
That's good.
Here and there.
That's really good. The whole time I was doing that, you were thinking about that.
Yeah, I've been writing them down.
That's good.
Yep.
The one thing I didn't say about this group, and this is probably where the rubber meets the road for them, is if you wanted to be a special year, as Micah Parsons alluded to, because Micah Parsons said, I think this is going to be a special year. And I hope that Mike Zimmer's here next year. Like, it's just a weird place in Dallas. When a coach just gets hired, I'll never forget one time. And I really didn't mean anything by this. I was like hungover at the exit meeting, probably still drunk a little bit, like the night after the last game. We never made the playoffs. Walked upstairs, met with all Spags coaches, and we had gone like 1-15 or 2-14. This is back when you had to walk uphill in the snow and you played 16 games. I walked up to Ken Flagel, who's actually one of my favorite coaches. So, I didn't mean anything by it at the end of the meeting. And I was like, it's been a pleasure working with you. And he was like, I'm back next year. Is there something you don't know? And I guess in my head, it was a Freudian slip because we were so bad. But Flage, I'm sorry about that. If Micah Parsons wants to have a special year, this defense has got to stop the run. And I think, it says a lot. They just traded for Jordan Phillips with New York, interestingly. A couple interdivisional trades in the NFC Beast here. We'll talk about another one in a second. Mozzie Smith, development, probably going a little bit slow, probably worried about his conditioning. It didn't cost them much because New York was going to cut him anyways, but Dallas wanted to skip the line, right? So Zimmer did talk about Smith needing to just play blocks and just not like try to jet up the field. And that's more Zimmer's defense, right? So he's lost weight, a la the kid we just talked about in Chicago, right? Gervon Dexter, a couple big, hefty rookies that got to get down and wait a little bit and play blocks. Like a little bit more lateral movement would do him well. But the bottom line is games like Arizona, games like Buffalo, games like San Francisco last year, they really got the ball run up their ass. And if you have ambitions of being a Super Bowl champion, I don't care how great a defense is, you can't overcome a pedestrian offense. If that's what it's going to be in spots, not stopping the run. Like that has got to be a non-negotiable. And I think Zimmer's going to get that done or do it to the best of his ability.
Brandon Aubrey's the best kicker in the league.
Dude, he hit a fucking field goal in preseason. And you're talking to me who's like, I watch preseason. I watch it for the rookies. I catch up on what's going on. But a lot of it's like, what am I doing here? One night, I got the TV on, and Brandon Aubrey kicked the ball probably 70 yards.
Effortlessly.
It was incredible. It was like, they were like, fuck it, roll him out there and let's see. He is a weapon. So, yeah, like, and they got the best special teams coach in the game, Bones.
That's right.
Yeah. Fossil.
All right. Philly?
You want to do the Commanders first? I'm just joking.
I'd like to do the
just
Philadelphia
fucking with you
Eagles.
guys. Just fucking with yous. All right. All right. I'm going to set the table here. What sank this team last year was poor synergy with the players and the coordinators. 2 hires that didn't go well, right? Like it just didn't work out, whether it was Matt Patricia cleaning up second D coordinator duty, putting James Bradbury manned up against JSN with the game on the line. That's the one I can't get out of my head. Or it was not having answers for the blitz offensively. Like they were just not the right hires. And the personnel didn't take to the hires. And as the injuries down the stretch kind of just wore on, I think some defensive depth got highly exposed, not just at linebacker, but more so in the secondary. So like the problems they had last year, in my opinion, are fixable. When you talk to the guys in the building, the problems are not fixed, but they are in the process of getting fixed. Like, I don't want to say like, hey, Kellen Moore is, like the magic potion and boom, we're good. But the vibes out of that camp this year were great. And the first guy you want to have good vibes is the quarterback, right? So they go out and they get 2 established guys, Moore, Fangio. They got a new QB coach, Nussmeier.
Yep.
Last year, I just felt like they were out of answers. Like after week 9, the offense sputtered, and you saw what happened. And I felt like a lot of times a new coordinator comes in, give you some different looks, and the second half of the season, they're going to get counter punches. And if they don't counter the counter punches, they're knocked out. And that's what happened. And I look at bringing Kellen Moore in, and not for nothing, Chargers last year averaged 13 points a game the last 8 games of the year. The first 9 games, 26 points a game. So part of that's injuries, part of that's just the team. But after the bye, his last year in Dallas, they scored 31 points a game, up 9 points from their average before the bye. So like, that's a lot, but it's just to say, like, if you look back at LA last year and they sputtered down the stretch and you're like, why would we hire a guy to fix the guy that sputtered down the stretch last year? That's not something he does every year. Like in Dallas, when he had the right pieces, they got stronger as the year went on. We talked about the importance of taking shots. We talked about the importance of the run game, play action. And obviously the number one thing you got to do to right the ship is the guy under center. He's 1 year removed from MVP type run. Like there were times last year where it was easy to forget that. He didn't look familiar to me at all. It's not something you expected to be doing, saying like coming into this, hey, Howie, in a year, and maybe he's surprised by nothing, having gone through what he went through with Carson. You just walked off the field losers in the Super Bowl by this much, and in a year, we're going to be talking about the number one question mark is how does the quarterback play? That is the number one question mark. I feel good about it because evidently he's thrown 768 passes in camp without throwing an interception. He threw 15 of them last year. But the thing you hear is how excited Jalen is, how well they're working together, and how good of a teacher Kellen Moore is. He's 36. So he's on these players' level. He's a former player. People forget that, right? Boise, and a little time in the league. So he's been there, done that. And he's able to teach. Now, the issues, the biggest complaints last year, no hots versus the blitz, didn't lean on the running back, right? Didn't lean on whoever it was playing running back, didn't lean on the offensive line. And then this was interesting to me. The ball didn't come out on time. 2-4 the year before, 2-9 last year. That's a big fucking difference, man. So whatever it was about Jalen processing, it's like he took a step back. I expect them to get the ball out quicker. I expect them to have answers versus blitz. I expect them to lean on that offensive line. So some other stuff they could do more of is pre-snap motion, vary the tempos. I think they'll do that. Jalen said 95% of the offense is new, but he has been praised by so many players for simplifying what could be a really complicating onboarding kind of process. He's a great teacher, adaptable to player skill sets. These are the quotes that come out of Philly. Game 1, early in the season, I think it's going to be tough because both sides of the ball, they got some changes, right? Like It's a new coordinator. You got a new running back. You have a new receiver that you just brought in Dotson, right? Like they still sound like they're going to use him. But I would be wary if you're an Eagles fan of watching that game in Brazil and saying like, this is who we're going to be. Or if we're not this team now, we're going to be worse later because of what happened. Don't be scarred like that. I think it just might be a little bit of a process. And Moore talks about creating mismatches. That's a big thing. Like he thought it was predictable. The way we talked about Micah Parsons and Zimmer watching that defense, he's watching A.J. Brown and he's saying like, I want to put A.J. Brown everywhere. I don't want it to be easy for people to match up. Saquon Barkley out of the backfield. They didn't get anything out of the backfield last year throwing the football. And don't forget, Moore's gotten a lot out of his tight ends like Schultz, Ferguson. Now, those guys have proved to be good players elsewhere, but they weren't high picks. Calcaterra's had a nice camp. We love Dallas Goedert. The defense has some concerns, and I think probably more of the concerns are on defense, ironically, because they did a lot of work to that side of the ball. Offensive line, let me not forget to mention, still a strength, but right guard is a position that they've been kind of toiling over all the camp. Who's going to be that guy, right? Steam, Becton, bunch of guys working in and out. Who's going to be that guy? I had even heard at one point, like, they might kick Juergens over and grab a center. Like, everything's on the table, but I do believe in Jeff Stoutland. He's one of the best coaches in the league, if not the best offensive line coach in the league. And, they'll figure it out. But the defense, there are some concerns, okay? The other thing is Kelsey. Kelsey's gone, right? I say it like it's bottom of the page, kind of because we've talked about it so much. But obviously, when you hear that the guy was making every call.
The question I keep hearing is, will they be able to run the tush push?
Is that illegal now?
No.
I think they're still going to be able to run the tush push. I think it has as much to do with fucking – now, Kelsey's a secret weapon, but Jalen Hurts squats the house. Okay, and that's a big group of guys up front. I think they're going to be able to do it. Defensively, new but possibly improved secondary, right? So, still early in the season, it is a new secondary. Backer depth, bit of a question for me, although it got better. And edge, okay? Now I'll push back on the edge thing. I think you can survive in this league without elite edge pressure. 2017, we won the Super Bowl. We didn't have a single double-digit guy on the whole D-line, right? Fletch was our guy, had a bunch of guys outside who were between 5 and 10 sacks, right? Barnett, myself, BG, Vinny Curry. You can get pressure. I actually like this edge group. I like Josh Sweat. I'm a big fan of Huff. Can you get 3 downs out of him? I don't know. Jalix Hunt is supposedly a guy with a lot of upside, right? So I think they can work it out. Fangio is going to roll coverages pre-snap, cloudy the picture for opposing quarterbacks, buy time for pass rushers. We'll see. But I like those guys, okay? It's not as bad as some people think. And there are going to be some games where you got spoiled, right? They built around the defensive line with this group the last couple of years. And some games you had 8-10 sacks. And then some games, guys aren't getting home. Last year, a lot of people complained because there were games where you're like, guys aren't winning one-on-ones. They play the Commanders, and Sam Howell would go off, and people would be like, where's the rush? But a lot of it is, where's the coverage, right? And so when you look at the coverage, that was the number one fire they had to put out. Last year, it started with the Maddox injury. It just went downhill. It was like a fucking dumpster fire. But this year, they go out and get C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who I'm going to put top of page, because to me, that's the biggest defensive signing that the Eagles have had since C.J. Gardner-Johnson. This guy is a dog. I love him. I was out there at practice. I've never played it down with him, but he's like one of those guys I'm like, I wish I was in a huddle with him. He's a dog. He's versatile. He can step in and play different positions. He has energy. He adds an edge. And the safeties need to be sound, because I just talked about this, juggling responsibilities in his scheme, playing in the box, not getting too greedy, still being able to bail out and play, deep third or half the field. There's a lot of pre-snap movement. So this is a guy that can also play nickel if guys are struggling. CJ is a very important piece of this defense. So the corners are going to be Slay, Ringo, Devin White. A little worried about him in the run game, but it sounds like Zach Bond's going to get some time. Nakobe Dean probably coming off the bench to start the season. I I don't know what to say about that. I haven't been at practice, but I did hear that today. And so I look at this linebacker group and I just worry about like depth. I really do. Like if somebody gets hurt, like Devin White, they let him walk in Tampa, right? Nakobe Dean was on IR twice last year. Bond, although he's a versatile, nice player that you get in free agency and a guy can add in the rush, is not like a household name. Now the group got better, but I worry about depth. And then defensive back, I mean, Cooper DeJean, he's been hurt most of camp. So like while I'm really excited about him and Mitchell.
Yeah, Fangio had a lot of positive things to say about Mitchell. Seemed to suggest that he'd be an every snap player.
He's an every snap player. It sounds like they roll him out. He's going to play a bunch of snaps. The thing I kind of wonder about is how does he figure and how does the rotation figure with Cooper DeJean like not quite being ready? Like Fangio said that out loud. Fangio's not a guy that minces words. I talked to him at the lunch table. It's like fucking 3 words and then like he like picked his meal up and just left. There were 5 people at the table. He didn't say like see you guys later. I fucking love him. Okay.
CJ wore 23 in Philly, then 2 in Detroit. He's wearing 8 this go around. He
cool.
says he's getting to his Kobe mode.
I love it. Mamba mentality from my guy. So like the question is, how does it work when DeJean gets up to speed? Like, is this rookie who they love going to have to play in the slot some? Is he going to play outside? Listen, one of the most impressive things about him when I was in camp was hearing stories. I didn't know this. When he was at Toledo, he turned down like 7 figures a couple times over to stay there with his guys.
Yeah.
I can't tell you. I am all about the way things are going. Guys should get paid. Guys should transfer. Guys should have freedom. But we shouldn't call guys suckers who want to finish what they started or stay with the guys they came in with. And I just look at this as not an insignificant thing. He's the type of guy that you want to be in the foxhole with. And he's impressed Vic Fangio, who didn't love his guys last year. And that's another thing. One of the things in Miami that was a point of tension was the best corner didn't travel. So you probably don't get a lot of corners traveling this year. It depends on how the matchups fall. But Trotter is a guy, Jeremiah Trotter Jr., who I haven't even talked about. He impressed them in base downs this year. And we thought, oh, special teams guy. No, I think he could play. And he might end up being a very important player for them. And how poetic would that be, right? The Axeman Jr., not just in the league, but on his dad's team. And probably playing some meaningful snaps this year. We'll see. Hopefully not. But if he's a good player, I'd love to see him out there. D-line in the middle. I mean, I talked about the guys outside. But you got Jalen Carter, you've got Jordan Davis, you've got Milton Williams. The depth beyond Milton Williams worries me a little bit, but the headliner at this show can be as good as anybody in the league, and that's Jalen Carter. I swear to you, I'm just telling you, this guy is hell on wheels, and if he figures it out, and he already, like, even if he doesn't figure it out, he's an 8-10 sack interior lineman who's really disruptive and plays with a mean streak. I fucking love the guy. If he takes the next step, this defense is going to be tough.
Is Jordan Davis an every down player, though?
He's not. But you have a number of guys that you can move inside and out. Brandon Graham's played inside. I don't know how his body's feeling. Vic Fangio said there's not going to be like a snap count on him. It sounds like they're going to try to get everything out of him they can before he rides off in the sunset. I watched him rush inside at a high level when I was there. He could kick inside this year in some situations. So the D-line's going to be fine. I know people are worried about the edge rush. It's really going to be about the coverage. If the coverage is sound with this unit, they're going to be fine. Okay? And the Eagles get the privilege of hosting Green Bay in Brazil. They're down a home game, which kind of sucks. But
NFC gets extra this year. So
maybe they're not.
8-8.
Oh, 8-8? See, I can't figure this fucking new schedule out. But the first 5 weeks are doable, yes, okay? Sir. Like seeing 3 NFC South teams as well as the Browns and Giants, no offense. And they finished with 3 divisional foes. So, like, this is lining up for them to make a run at this division. No surprise. Whether it's the Cowboys or them is going to hinge completely, in my opinion, on what's happening in the quarterback room in Philly. It has nothing to do with what's going on down in Dallas. To me, the epicenter of this division is old Nussmeier, Kellen Moore, and Jalen Hurts, talking shop on the whiteboard every day. However that's going is how this division is going to go.
And on day 16 of camp, Jalen did finally throw a pick to Darius Slay. So don't go into week 1.
It's better to do that.
Perfect, for sure.
You don't want to be undefeated.
Yep.
That's what their problem. They were too good in the first half of last season.
That's right.
So you want to lose a couple games early.
But if they do go 1-5 down the stretch again this year and are 3.5 point favorites in the wild card weekend, let's not take them.
No, I did that because
a 32-9 loss.
The
schedule's crazy. I mean, it's hard to pencil in a lot of losses.
No, I think this is a team that's got a chance to host playoff games. And that's what the expectation should be.
Now, in vogue, maybe not in vogue, a spicy little pick for the playoffs, these Washington Commanders.
I don't know about playoffs, but I did bet their over win total.
Okay, 6.5.
I bet their over win total. I bet the I got bets in. I don't remember.
Hey, one name I want to mention.
Yeah.
He's like young,
Yeah.
And a former first-round pick. Kenny Pickett is the backup in Philadelphia.
Yeah, that's right. And that's
not nothing.
Mixed reviews in camp, but it's not nothing, right? Could be worse. Mariota, I think it's an upgrade.
Yeah.
So the Commanders, the Commies, okay?
Speaking of Marcus Mariota.
Yeah.
In Washington.
Quinn, Adam Peters, they overhauled 50% of the roster. They're trying to bury the past like nuclear waste, dude. It's a fucking poltergeist situation there.
Put the unis in there too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need to exhume all the bodies.
Mm-hmm.
So they draft Jaden Daniels. I think the number one question, just like we did with Caleb Williams, and of course the expectations are not as high. But there is chatter, there's a healthy population of NFL fans that think he could be the best quarterback out of the group. And you know how that thing is. Last year we thought it was going to be Bryce Young. Okay, it was CJ Stroud. Trevor Lawrence, he was the number one pick that 1 year. He's the only guy still with his team. That's not usually the outcome. Okay, so you never know. Draft Jaden Daniels. I saw him rolling his fucking shoulders on TikTok. I don't know if that has anything to do with anything, but we are in the Washington Commanders section of the fucking preview, so I'm just going to say that looked impressive. I don't know if it translates throwing the football. How's the weapons? Okay, they lose Samuel to Buffalo. They lose Dotson to Philly. And shit, I should have said that in Philly. Having 3 receivers, I just talked about it. It's obvious to me. But they lose both those guys. They're hoping De'Ami Brown, who's flashed over the last couple of years, can take a step. Needs to improve. They praised him in camp this year. McCaffrey gives him a little size, right? Zacchaeus, our guy, Wahoo Wah, is a guy who produced an average catch of 13 yards last year. So, this is a guy who can bite you off a chunk there.
5'8".
5'8", steady. Ertz, steady as the day is long, right? Quarterback's best friend. And they like Ben Sinnott at tight end. So, a couple tight ends that they like there. The backfield, solid, unspectacular. One very good fantasy player in Brian Robinson.
Yeah.
Worth a flyer. And then Eckler. So, you've got varied skill sets in the backfield, right? Both of them catch the ball out of the backfield, something they talked about being excited to do this year. The offensive line, again, like we talked about in Chicago, this is the question. And this group was frustrated last year. I think everybody was frustrated. It's so interesting to me. Eric Bieniemy became this mascot for what we're not doing right in the NFL. And, we tie Kansas City's success to him and we project Washington's success. And about halfway through the year, you look up and you're like, this offense sucks. It kind of sucks. Quarterback gets his head taken off. They're not running the ball. The group was frustrated. Charles Leno's wife took to Twitter to shit on UCLA's offense. Okay, so it's raw. You know what I mean? They gave up 1 million sacks. Kingsbury's made an emphasis over getting the ball out. That should be the key. That's what I want to hear out of Chicago, right? When I hear that from a coordinator, I don't care if you do nothing else, but get the ball out fast. Find out what. And I think Jaden Daniels is a really good processor from what I hear. So Wiley's the right tackle. Cornelius Lucas is going to play left tackle because Brandon Coleman's out. They got a good center, right? Okay, the inverse of the Chicago situation where you're I don't know about the center, but Biotis is a good center, veteran. Allegretti's another guy with championship experience, did a nice job down the stretch. Cosme, right guard, failed at tackle, but he probably found a home there. So not for nothing, two guys on this offensive line played with Patrick Mahomes and won a Super Bowl. Okay, like good for Jaden Daniels, right? We're not expecting them to be world beaters, but this is good. So I look at the offense, I look at Kingsbury, and I kind of just wonder if they're going to be able to reel that guy in. But it sounds like they're going to worry about getting the ball out and not putting too much on Jaden Daniels' plate rookie year, which is music to my ears. Cliff, he can give a quarterback a lot of freedom. I feel like Kyler Murray had a fuck ton of freedom. He was almost like his own worst enemy in that offense. If they can just tighten things down a little bit and treat this guy like a rookie, I think he'll be happy with the returns. Defense, strength of what?
Their defense is so bad.
I know. Strength of the team's the interior D-line, though. Payne, Allen, they go get Jerzon Newton, which they were kind of like, hey, best available, like who he is, like where we are. Let's grab him. Linebacker core, totally revamped.
Bobby Wagner.
Really like it because I like Luvu, came from Carolina. Bobby Wagner reuniting with Quinn. But if we're talking about the front seven, I think the thing that Matt was like queasy over back there is the edge rush. It's the worst edge rush group in the league. Okay. I said you can win without a dominant edge rush.
You need pieces.
You need some pieces. And maybe you see a Montez Sweat type deal at some point this year, like a reverse Montez Sweat. I don't know who that would be.
They do have draft capital.
They got capital. So I don't know if they wake up 4-3 at one point and they're like, oh, like we're not getting any pass rush out of Cleveland Farrell and whoever the fuck else.
Dorrance Armstrong,
who I don't dislike. Neither of those guys I dislike, especially Dorrance, right? But they're just and Dorrance is a Dan Quinn, like Dan Quinn's giving him the nod. He's saying, like, I like you. You come with me, right? He likes a big physical guy like that, a tweener kind of guy. But they don't have a lot of pass rush. The back end shredded last year, and it just got worse as they did that yard sale. They were like, hey, here's all our pass rushers. And those DBs woke up the next morning and they were like, oh, this is going to be embarrassing. Emmanuel Forbes struggled last year. He was up and down. I think he's like kind of among Commanders fans, like a hot topic. Like we want to see him make the turn. Supposedly he's gained some weight. Mike Davis, Benjamin St. Juste have experience outside. I like St. Juste. I really do. I don't even know how to say this guy's name from
Mike
Bama.
Sanristil from Michigan.
Can we fix your fucking name, buddy?
Yeah.
Like it's like complicated in the most non-standard way. Supposedly he can play. Michigan. I got it mixed up because I heard Saban talking about him.
He's awesome.
Saban really likes him. So I think, Dan Quinn knows what he's doing. They're going to bring pressure. The secondary's got to hang in there. Joe Witt Jr. has done a great job wherever he's been. Okay, like Green Bay, Atlanta, Dallas. He was the guy working with the secondary, right? That was a very talented, high-achieving group. I think it's intentional when you bring him in. We want a D coordinator. We want him to be a guy that really works well with the defensive backs. And so, like, while the ceiling's not incredibly high on this team, I think for just rolling the ball out on a new campaign, not bad. Checkpoint.
Checkpoint.
Offseason 1 complete, and I think they're in a decent position to win some games in the NFCs. Like, this is a team that's given Philly hell. And if Jaden Daniels is special, then they're going to be better. They still have a number 1 wide receiver in Terry McLaurin, who I didn't even talk about, who's a dog. And I think Cliff Kingsbury's probably like, hey, I'd like to put some respect back on my name. I was like the hottest thing in the world. Then they drafted me. They pulled me up from college and gave me this beautiful Arc Digest house in Phoenix, and the whole thing fell apart. And so I'd love to see Cliff get back on his feet. And I'm a fan of Jaden Daniels, so I'd like to see him succeed as well.
Why do we think it's so clear that Jacoby should start in New England, but Jaden should start right away in DC?
I think New England's a little bit more void of talent. I do. I do. And I think, like, for whatever reason, people feel like, Jaden's pretty pro ready. The body type makes me nervous, right? Like, he's got a little of that RG3 kind of, he's like a slender man, right? Williams is a little guy in Chicago, so both these guys need to be protected. But there's nothing wrong with giving him time on the job if he's ready. Now, we did forget one team.
We can cut it short.
The New York Giants. This is Brian Dable's last chance.
I
believe. Fair or unfair?
Unfair to Brian Dable.
It's not always fair.
Skinny Brian Dable.
Yeah, and he's coaching one of the younger teams in the NFL. He is taking over the play calling, which to me is another sign that, like, hey, my back's against the fucking wall. I'm going to be calling the plays.
Yep.
Kafka, has been a hot name, but they haven't been able to figure this thing out. It kind of comes down to the Hard Knocks clip that Nolan brought up earlier, because I didn't watch Hard Knocks. Sorry, I must miss some good content there.
The Giants one was very interesting,
really,
from a front office standpoint.
Other than the fact that they were, like, calling Saquon and it was super awkward. Like, I did not see a lot, but the backdrop of making that decision was evidently Saquon or a new offensive line. And what's going to be better for Danny Dimes? And I kind of agree. If it was like gun to your head, like one or the other, great. Because by the time you get things right, Saquon's wheels are going to fall off. I don't think it was the worst thing to do, to be like, hey, let's take care of the offensive line, if it was one or the other.
I totally agree. There's another piece that was, we will mortgage everything to go get Drake May, to which New England said no.
Yeah, they tried. This is the backup plan.
Yeah.
This is the backup plan. This is not the ideal plan. You can tell it's not the ideal plan. I don't feel like Dable's ever liked Daniel Jones. Like, I'm not Oz the mentalist, but I can read body language. All right. And he hasn't given him a lot of reasons to like him. Right. And so, they gave up 85 sacks last year. That's not going to work for Tom Brady. It's not going to work for Patrick Mahomes. Okay. Like, put those guys behind that offensive line, there'd be problems, right? They added Runyon, they added Illuminor, they added Van Roten, they added Stinney, went to our high school. And then changed the offensive line coach, brought in Carmen Brasillo from Las Vegas. All the players seem like I don't want to say they were abused last year. I don't know what that room was like, but in reading the quotes, it feels like this is a welcome addition, right? Like, this guy's kind of teaching a little bit. He's going to get Evan Neal's confidence up whenever he's healthy. And I think what I like is they brought in Van Roten, who had a great year last year. Illuminor was with him in Vegas and New England, talking about Carmen Brasillo. So, like, you've got some connectivity with the players and the coach, and then Van Roten and Illuminor played side by side in Vegas, which really helps in general, but it also helps John Michael Schmitz, who has to rebound. He's a center, and he's got vets around him. So I actually think this isn't the worst group.
Yeah, you just need Evan Neal to be happy and make the Andrew Thomas jump.
I don't think that jump's coming. But if you can figure out a way to make him serviceable, that would be a start. They add Neighbors. That's great. Everybody was, thirsting over this guy in the draft. I mean, it feels like the odds-on favorite to be the best offensive player, not a quarterback, coming out of this draft. Like, people are really excited to see this guy play. So,
Marvin Harrison.
Yeah, well, nobody's going to pay attention.
True.
They're both bad teams, but one of them plays in Arizona, right? And I don't even want to say that Cardinals are a bad team. Cardinals are a better team than this team, especially on offense, not on defense. All right, so you look at this group and you say, we just need more out of Wan'Dale Robinson and Jalen Hyatt. That's all. And Bryce Ford Wheaton, who honestly has been getting a ton of very, very positive comments from guys in the building. He was out last year with an ACL. They call him a freak of nature, man. He beat out Allen Robinson and Hodgins. I'm not downplaying that. Like, maybe this guy comes on and is your 2 or your 3. I don't know. Haven't seen enough. Singletary's a player I liked him in Houston. Have no idea who the guys are behind him. Like, no idea.
Eric Gray.
Yeah.
And Tyrone Tracy.
Still not ringing a bell.
Eric Gray, Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
Tyrone Tracy, perhaps Purdue.
You'd have to watch college football, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you would.
So, like all in all, you had Theo Johnson, who's the Penn State guy, right? Physical freak. They talk about him like he's got a lot of potential. So there's a possible ace in the hole here, right? You might come out of this thing with a real number one wide receiver and a pass-catching tight end who does what you were hoping Darren Waller would have done before that very unspectacular stop that preceded retirement. So, even if it's not Daniel Jones next year, they have taken a step in the right direction.
Eric Ray, Oklahoma, obviously.
Okay, obviously. Now, the defense, they got a core that they're going to want to stick around a while. I think Brian Burns is going to change the whole thing, but Thibodeau has played really well. Okay, I'm not going to take anything away from that guy. I didn't know he'd be this good. He's played well. They got
him an apology.
Not really. I don't think it was quite like that.
Okay.
But I think the way I had it ranked was Trayvon, then Hutchinson, and then Thibodeau. And honestly, they've all panned out. You could argue that Trayvon hasn't panned out, but as long as he's up there around the double-digit mark, it's not a whiff.
Well, and the other two guys in that top 5 are Stingley and Sauce.
So a very good top 5.
And then it goes Icky and Evan Neal.
Yeah, just missed out. So anyways, I really like those guys. Dexter Lawrence is Dexter fucking Lawrence. And then Raheem Nunez Roches inside. They like Elijah Chapman, right? And their big 3 accounted for 150 pressures last year. And I'm talking about Dexter Lawrence, Sexy Dexy, Thibodeau, Brian Burns. They have a really good core 3 guys up front. I like Okereke. I like McFadden.
Azeez
Ojulari, who can do things in the pass rush as well. I'm talking about their off-ball backers are solid. Tyler Nubin.
Yeah.
Okay. Second round safety from Minnesota. There is good buzz on him out of camp. And it looks like there's a good chance he takes the safety spot from Dane Belton.
I would hope.
You would hope. Pinnock played well. Giants players evidently named Nubin as a top breakout candidate. So that's in the middle of camp. That tells you all you need to know. They need him to play big because they lost McKinney to Green Bay. So they need somebody to come in and play high quality snaps. At safety, they'd like to upgrade Flott, right? And Banks is a guy that hung tough last year. I mean, you talk about being a rookie corner playing under Wink Martindale. That's like fucking baptism by
fire.
Something hotter than fire.
There's another one, Drew Phillips, Kentucky rookie.
That's right. So hopefully Drew Phillips comes on. It'd be great if he would take Flott's job. I don't know if he's going to play nickel. You've got a rookie at nickel. Shane Bowen's going to be more versatile, though. Wink is aggressive, right? And so I look at this group, and while they're still going to have to man up, he's going to employ more versatile coverages. And so this defense is going to win them a couple games.
It sounds to me like you're saying they may not allow any points this year, this defense.
No, that's not what I'm saying. But I don't think it's a stretch to say that this defense could be top half of the league, if not top 10, if things break right. Bottom of the top 10, this could be a stingy group. But the problem is if the offense is turning the ball over a fuck ton, or Danny's hurt, or they can't move the ball, that becomes one of those Jets situations where I don't care how good your fucking defense is, they can't win you every game. So yeah, in summation, I don't want to disrespect any of these teams in the NFC East.
Okay.
There are things to like about all of them. And 2 years ago, Daniel Jones won a playoff game.
That's right.
Okay. A lot can change. I'm not saying he's going to get back there, but he did grow the beard and he looked more confident talking to Kay Adams.
Yeah, I think this all stems from 2018 when Gettleman picked Saquon number 2 overall. And I love Saquon, and I miss Saquon.
Let somebody else have Saquon.
And I think it'll be great in Philly.
Yeah.
But you don't start a rebuild with a running back and then follow up with a quarterback that not a whole lot of teams were in love with.
Gettleman had his time.
Yep.
So
yes, he did.
We're on to Joe Shane.
The Shane game.
Star of Hard Knocks. Actually, his nephew's the star of Hard Knocks. Dad, you only get one shot at this. Fucking idiot, uncle. Called you dad. Got me all flustered.
Who's my dad?
Mismanaging this roster. All right, so come back Friday. We're going to give out some picks for all the divisions, Super Bowl, MVP, Rookie of the Year, all that shit. Comeback Player of the Year, whatever that means. We'll try to figure that out by Friday. Yes, there will be a gambling angle. We will be giving some picks out. This year we're going to pick 5. And I believe we're going to have some variation of myself, Macon, Nate, and possibly Stanford Steve joining us to make picks on our Friday show. Whereas last year we were doing it midweek and it sucked balls. Okay.
It's harder.
Yeah, it's
much harder.
Yeah. So anyways, big thank you to Brandy Love. And thank you to all the hardworking NFL beat writers who provide us the intel of what's going on in camp. We just wrapped 4 division previews. And while a lot of this shit, I thought of myself, you got to do a lot of reading. These guys and gals that are sitting in training camp for 30 days on end and getting to know the team are our window into how the fucking season's going to go. And I appreciate y'all. I don't know if a lot of podcasters are telling you that, but I appreciate y'all. All right, come back on Friday and have a great, great week.
Y'all take care.
Oh, hey, by the time we talk to you next, it's Christmas.
Football.